all of you for making the time to be here today in our webinar today. Let me tell you a little bit about what this webinar is not about. It's not about making you a student in the next 30 days. And it's not about a technique that you might not know and you might learn it today and go apply. It is really about how we're going to help you to see the next 12 months and how you're going to take your school step at a time to make it there. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the things you shouldn't be thinking about. So if you're looking at some of the stuff you're learning today, and at the end of the webinar, you're saying, man, I don't know any of these things, or I know some of these things, or I'm not good at some of these part of the things he's talking about, please don't get demotivated. Life is all about learning and experiencing. And nothing is better than always learning new things. So if you're not learning, learning something new every month, every year, you're not really experiencing it fully. So let me start by moving to the first thing, and that is, do you really see yourself to be successful? I think that would be really the first step. A lot of people do, and a lot of people don't. But I think you shouldn't start a business. You shouldn't start a business knowing that you're not going to make it. You should start a business and be confident that no matter how much learning you have to do, you're going to make it. So my example of starting my own business, when I had only 80 students, and I would go to all these seminars, I would take these courses, I would sit in the back of every room, but I would know at the end of the day, I'm going to be like the guy who has 300 students. I knew that I'm going to be like the guy who is making $1 million a year. So I had the confidence that I would get there, even though I didn't know much. I was a fighter. You know, I would teach great students who were really good at what they do, and I would help them to become their best in fighting in tournaments. But really, I didn't know much about the business of martial arts at the time. So do you see it in yourself? Do you think you will be able to do what you want to do? And if you do, this is where we start. Do you want to be a martial arts instructor or an entrepreneur? Really, you need to be both. And you might be very good at fixing cars and be called a mechanic, but should you open a mechanic shop? Not really. In order to open a mechanic shop, not only you need to be a good mechanic, but you also have to be a great entrepreneur. And what does it take to be a great entrepreneur? So if you say, yes, you can be both, these are the three things that I want you to really think about. Okay? The first step, be great with people. What does that mean? Out of all the entrepreneurs I've known, out of all the entrepreneurs I've ever known in my life, I've never seen people who are not good with people, whether the people they work with, so meaning their employees, their staff, or the people they bring on board as customers, whether they call them students or the friends who join them and buy something from them. One great thing about all entrepreneurs is that they are great with people. And what does that mean in a martial arts business? You have to have a lot of energy. You need to be an energetic person. Now, I understand that we're all different. We get up in the morning, and some of us feel the energy every day. Some of us feel the energy once every week. But when you get to your business, and when you put on that belt, and you make that knot on your belt, it's the time to bring out all your energy to the classrooms, to your staff meetings, to the talks that you have with your staff, your parents, and kids. Energy is the key. With energy comes more energy. You give people energy, they give you back energy. The second part is being positive. Running a small business is very difficult. You're going to hit a lot of challenges in your on your way. One day you think you're going to make it big time. One day you start getting up in the morning and not feeling too good and looking at your numbers and say, holy, I didn't do that well. It's so important that taking all the failures as a learning lesson and be positive about it. And go on out there the next day, again, making it into reality. So being positive when you are looking at your business, when it's down, when it's up. Being positive when you're dealing with people, as well as being positive when you're teaching a class. So they're all really important. At the end of the day, one of the reasons people come to your classes is because they pick up on your energy and they pick up on your positiveness. They go home and they feel good about themselves. And that's really key. I've told you this story before. I had a student. He was 7-year-old, and his mom was also training in my school. Every time his mother would go home happy, they would sit on the dinner table. His son would say, Mom, I know where you've been. And the mom would say, where do you think I've been? And he would say, you've been at Champions. And she would say, how did you know? And he would say, because every time you come from that school, you are so much more positive. You've got this energy about you. A 7-year-old could feel that positive energy. Imagine. Now imagine you can create a positive environment around your school. How do you do that? It really starts with you, the owner. It starts with the instructors. It starts with the staff. So it comes from you and it goes to everyone else. So that positive energy is really key. The third, most importantly, is let's look at it in real world of a martial arts school. What is the business you're in? Are you in the business of self-defense? Are you in the business of training and getting in shape? Are you in the business of fitness? Or are you in the business of being an educator and teaching the kids how to behave, how to be, and not only teaching them the sidekick? So when you take that part of a martial arts business, being an educator, then you see that's really important. Being an educator is what gets you going. Being an educator, what gets your school popular. Being an educator is what people talk about you. Being an educator is when a parent sits down with his son and knows his friends is behaving better because you taught him something that the other parents don't know about. And they want to come to your school and learn that as well. So being an educator is the key, and you have to make sure that stop just focusing on drills, better techniques, jumping around between programs, teaching karate one day, MMA the next, cardio the next day, and be an educator. And being an educator really means try to teach at least one thing in every class. So, you're sitting at the end of the class, bring all the students together, sit down, and teach them a life lesson. I'm sure there are a lot that you can teach. As well as, if you have that in mind, I remember in my business, I actually try to systemize that, making sure that every instructor, when they're in the class, they kind of know what to talk about at the end of the class, at least for 2 or 3 minutes. And when you think like that, you start learning more, because an educator needs to educate themselves on a regular basis. You have to consistently educate yourself. So everything you watch a movie, you learn something new from, you want to pass that on. You read a new book that you learn something from it, you want to pass that on. So being an educator is really a key in being a great people person. Those 3 things are words, how you take it, it's up to you, but take them seriously. Be energetic, be positive, at least every time you show up in your business, and be an educator. And try to continuously teach yourself to be an educator. Plan well for the future, the second step. How many people have started their business, their martial arts business, by first writing a business plan? Can you raise your hand so I can see this here? How many of you have started your martial, before you start your martial business, you start writing a business plan? Now, what is a business plan? A business plan is a plan where you're going to execute. Where you're going to open your school, where should the location be, what is that area that you live in, how many family members live there, what is the level of income in those areas, who are the competitors, how much should you charge, how many students do you think you will get the first month, how many do you think you'll get the second month, how many students do you think you will lose the third month, and by the end of 12 months, where do you think you're going to be? As far as the number of students, as far as the financial income and profit, where you're going to be. That is being part of an entrepreneur. A business owner who doesn't make a plan for the future, and not necessarily future, I don't mean future in 5 years from now, but maybe 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or 12 months from now. It's going to be hard for that business to grow. It's tough to run a business. You all know it. And without a plan, you just don't know where you're going. Monthly review. If you do make a plan, if you do become that person who makes the plan, first of all, there are a lot of information out there. There are a lot of books you can read. There's a lot of software you can do these things. And there are a lot of people that I'm sure you know that can help you with these type of things if you're not good at it. But monthly review of your plan is the key to see whether you are hitting your targets or not. Now, a lot of people might start a plan but never look at it again. How many people do you know that make a New Year resolution, but here comes next year, they make the same New Year resolutions, and here comes the next year, guess what? They'll set up the same New Year resolution. It's not good to just keep plan but not know where you're at and where you're going to be in the next 3 months. So reviewing your plan is the key. And how do you review it? You review it monthly. You sit down, you say, okay, I plan to get 5 students a month. Let me see how I did in January. I got 6 of them. That's awesome. So I can make 6. So maybe I should change my plan to be 6 students a month, not 5, because I'm able to do it. And if you got 3 of them instead of 5, you start thinking, okay, January passed. Instead of 5, I got 3. Let me see what is the lessons learned. What is it I learned from this? Why did I get only 3 students? Was it because I didn't get enough leads from my marketing efforts? Or was it because I just simply didn't answer the phone and I couldn't get these guys because I was never available and I was just running around teaching classes and telling myself that I am just too busy to do everything. So monthly review teaches you on a regular basis to see how you're doing. And I suggest you document that. Honestly, if I look at some of my plans and the reviews that I've done, I kind of document everything on a regular basis. It's like reading my own journal. And I go back and I read and I see things that I did achieve and I look at things that I didn't achieve. And sometimes looking at them, I just laugh. I laugh at the way I was thinking maybe 5 years ago. So it's a great idea for you to document things. And goals and targets is the next step. Now make sure your goals and targets, first of all, are realistic. And number 2, they are something that you can accomplish. So if you say, I want to get 10 students every month, and you're getting really 2, that to me is not realistic. But if you're getting 6 and you want to get 8, that's realistic. So try to set realistic goals. for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't make you disappointed, so the next month you're more happy to do it. And number two, it's more realistic for you to accomplish those goals. And we all know, we teach our students, we have, whether we have 12-step programs in our school, teaching from white belt to black belt, or you have 10 ranks in your school, what are the ranks really all about? Ranks are really psychology. I would call them the student psychology. You help the students mentally, emotionally, and you set targets for them. And you help them to accomplish those goals a step at a time. And so, how do you do that for yourself? Do you have ranks for yourself? Do you know when are you going to be a green belt martial arts school owner? And when are you going to be a black belt martial arts school owner? And what does that look like? Are you going to be a black belt martial arts business owner when you have 300 students or when you have 500 students? And how do you set your goals and targets? So without that, it's hard to know what to do. The life is busy with family, with friends, with challenges in life, and if you don't have a real target, you don't know which way to go. Are you going to go left, right, backwards, forward? Where are you going to go? So having these targets is key. It also helps you to know how hard you got to work. If you have a goal, you know how hard to work and where you have to put your hours and where you have to prioritize. If you don't have goals and targets, then you're just moving forward every day, and you're moving in life, and years goes by, and you don't know what went right and what went wrong. So I think it's important for you to be able to set these goals and set a target. So last one. There are a lot of people who make plans. You probably have made plans that you never stick with. And one of the reasons I said you should set up realistic goals is because I want you to stick with them, right? Now, you're great with people, you make great plans, but if you never accomplish anything, how the hell are you going to succeed? If years going to go by and you still have 50 students and you still have 70 students and it's never growing and it's never getting less, there's something wrong with you executing your plans. So execute your plan like crazy. Every day, you're going to know, once you have a target, what to focus on. And because you're a small business owner, and like everyone else, including myself, you're going to have hundreds of things to do. You're going to learn how to prioritize them. Because I can't possibly do 10 things in one day, can I? You cannot do that either. But really, which one of these 10 things that I have to do today will bring the most value to me? Which one of them? Is it if I sit down and fool around with my software for 5 hours? Or is it if I call my leads who haven't showed up to my school last week? Yes, I have to do all 5, but which one will bring the most value to me and to my goals and to my business plan? Which one will bring the most value? That way you will prioritize. You will prioritize not things you like to do, but prioritize things you must do in your business. We're all human of habits. We try always get up in the morning and do things we really like and we enjoy. That could be getting in the ring, or it could be doing target training, or it could be really doing some martial arts training yourself. And then we let go continuously of things we don't like to do. As an entrepreneur, you don't have that choice. If you want to be a successful business owner with 300 students, I'm telling you right now, either quit or start also doing things you don't like. For example, you don't like to talk to people and you like to sit in your office in the back and allow your 16-year-old instructor to talk to people. Get out. If you don't like people, don't be in the business of a martial arts school, because you must love people. You don't like to make plans. You don't like to deal with numbers. You don't like to deal with accounting. You don't like to deal with software. You don't like to do the marketing. You don't like to call students who don't show up. Get out now, because you will never make it to 300 students. In order for you to do that, you must do also things you don't like. And I'm sure you know what those things are. So every day, when you're trying to execute crazy all your plans, because you broke it down into weekly, into daily things to do, now try to prioritize things that are important, things that are going to bring you the most value. And then the last one is play to win. What does that mean? A lot of people have said that in so many different ways. There's a book that Cincinnati, you were saying you were reading about, Good to Great. Really, it's talking about the same thing. Play to win. Don't be a school that wants to be at 40, 50, 80 students for the rest of your life. That's not play to win. It's okay. We all go through a hard time. One day I have 100 students. Something happens to me. I have 200. Then I go back to 100. That's okay. But don't lose the fact that you are in this game to win. You're not playing this game just to play a game. And really, it's like a sports game. You go play soccer. You get a couple of goals scored on you, and you score some. So you're 2-2. You come out really happy that you had a great time. You worked out for 90 minutes. You played soccer. You hanged out with your friends, and you enjoyed your time. Now with business, unfortunately, that doesn't work. If you're not there to win, you lose. There is no draw. In business, either you win or you lose. So keep that in mind. Every day you come to your business, every time you're planning, every time you're focusing on your goals and your business plans, remember, you have to win. And how do you win in a martial arts school? That is, teach great classes, move forward, knowing that this year you've done better than last year. Even if that number is only 10%, that number is only 5%, because you're here to win. Now, finally, we'll get to the topic of the webinar, the 7 magic steps to 300 students, and what those are. Now that we talked about yourself, what kind of person you have to be, how do you have to think about your business, how you have to make plans, you must have goals and targets, and you might execute your targets on a regular basis. But let's get in more into details of the things you have to do on a regular basis. Again, these are not tips on marketing. These are not tips on, how you should put a Google ad course and get 5 students. Because though I do care about all those techniques, and they're awesome, and it's great to know, but those are made only for entrepreneurs. They're not made for people who have a pleasure business. That pleasure type business is a business that doesn't want to grow. They just want to make the end meet, and they want to make the rent, they want to pay their bills, and they're happy with it. So let's go back to 7 magic. Let's start with 7 magic steps to 300 students and what I think those are. Step 1, teach great classes. Now, you probably all agree with me that the most important thing in running a martial arts school is to keep your customers happy and get them to come back. And the only way you do that is you teach great classes. And what does that mean? Teaching great classes means people are having great time in your classes. People are coming back for your great classes. And people are seeing themselves progressing in your great classes. So all those 3 things are important. They're having a great time. They're coming back week after week to get more of them. And they're progressing in the classes. Now, the last one, progressing, means if you say a student is going to get 4 months, he's going to get his yellow belts, you have to make sure he will get his yellow belt by learning his stuff. He's not going to get his yellow belt just because he passed the 4 months, but because he he or she are progressing. They're learning the steps, they're learning the techniques, they're learning the stances, they're learning the punches exactly the way you want them to learn. If that becomes your goal, then you're going to make sure every instructor that you have in your school, every class that you teach, they all work the same way. And that is helping students to grow. As a matter of fact, I think about this progressing so much that I'm working on a new software that is going to help you to see whether a class is good, whether a class is bad, if the students are coming back or not, and I'm going to show you all that with a chart so that way you know who to pay attention to. And whether the students are actually growing and progressing and they're moving from one belt to another and they're actually learning stuff. So, second magic step is use the ABC system. Now, the ABC system is how you know where your students are at. Now, whether you call them students, members, customers, it doesn't matter. Just at rating is a way to rate your students, your customers. And why is that so great? Because every time you rate your customers, your students, you know where they're at. You know what kind of schools you're running. You know whether this quarter, last quarter, this year, you're doing better than last year or not. So this very basic, simple system is going to show you and help you what type of business you're running. I can actually look at one school only at their A and B and C rating and tell them exactly how this business is doing. I don't need to look at the financials. I don't need to look at the expenses or the loss and the profit. All I have to look is how many students got, how many B, and how many C. Then I'm going to divide it into classes. Which class has the most C students? Which class has the most non-active students? Then I can also go drill down more into which instructor has the most C students, which instructor has the most A students. And that tells me everything about that classroom, about that school, and about that instructor. Because you rate your students based on what? Based on how great they're doing, whether they're progressing or not, if they're coming to your school or not. And one of the best way to really measure that is whether they're coming back. And we have created with Perfect Mind a great system for ABC, which will automate it. So I hope you're actually using that system and it's telling you how your business is doing. And you're reviewing that every Friday. So step 3, duplicate yourself. We're talking here about how to have 300 students. It's a different beast. If you right now you're running 125 students, moving up to 200 to 300 students, every step of the way you want to need to learn new things. And every step you would need to learn how to change some of your processes. Giving service to 100 students is way different than giving service to 300 students. In my school, we have about 600 students. And running a 600 student school is completely different than running a 100-student school. The way the instructor training is, the way the courses are, the way the services are, the way you keep the students coming and going and keeping attendance and making sure that your marketing continuously keeps bringing the students into your school is the key. If you have 100 students and you lose, as an example, 10% of them every month, that's 10 students a month. So I have 100 students, I lose 10 of them, now I got 90. So how many students do I have to get in order to grow? At least 12. That way I have 2 extra students. I will have 102 students. Now if you go to a 300 students school and you lose 10%, that is losing 30 students a month. So imagine your marketing, your effort has to double in order to bring 40 students into your school every month. That way you can stay still at 300 students and also even growing it. So when I say duplicating yourself, means duplicating everything you do today. So, for example, you're handling some of your marketing yourself. Now you want to be from 100 to 200 students. That is twice more. You're going to do twice more marketing. So you need to find someone else that can help you to do that job. Or, for example, if you're teaching 3 classes a day, and you have 100 students and you want to have now 300 students, you probably have to teach 6 to 9 classes a day. Are you able to do that? Can you duplicate yourself? And remember what I said at the beginning, right? You want to be a martial arts instructor and an entrepreneur? This is one of the hardest parts. This is step 3. How do you duplicate yourself, right? How do you make others to be as good as you? Or at least to be 60% of you, which is, that is already great. And how do you train other people? And how do you help other people to be able to do things you want them to do? And there's a big lesson on how to duplicate yourself. And I could do a webinar just on that. And as a matter of fact, I'm thinking maybe I should do one now that I'm thinking about it. And but there are a lot of great companies that can help you too, right? For example, one of the most important part of your schools that you like to duplicate is having more instructors, right? And that's the part that, there are a lot of companies out there that can help you. Like, for example, Bill Storm or Greg Silva with UP, these guys, this is what they do. And they help. I know actually they help a business here in BC that he had like 30, 40 students, and now they're at 300 number of students. And they stuck with these guys, and they really helped them through all that work to get there. So, again, step 3, let's keep that as it is. You probably have some ideas of how to do things, and if you need more help, let me know. I can set you up with at least some actions that you need to take next. Step 4, more students, more classes. We talked about that briefly. A lot of school owners who teach all the classes themselves, and by the end of the day, when it comes to 9 p.m. at night, they're really tired. All day's gone past. They haven't seen the sunset. They've been in the school probably from the morning doing other things. And here it is, it's 9 o'clock. And they look at themselves and say, wow, I have 100 students. What's going to happen to me when I have 300? Do I have to teach 3 times more? So what they do is they don't add classes to their daily classrooms. So, for example, if they're running a class for 1 hour and they've got half an hour between and they're running another class, they don't shorten the classroom to 45 minutes and then add another class right after. Or if they have 2 rooms, they would not run 2 classes at the same time. And why do you think they wouldn't? That's because they don't have anybody else to teach those classes. And at the same time, psychologically, every time you want to get more students, you start thinking, shit, if I want to teach more students, then I got to work more. And I really don't have the bandwidth to work more. I'm already working 12 hours a day. So how am I going to teach another class? So what happens is they fill up a class with lots of white belts, and they keep doing marketing and to bring in more students with white belts. So a class, all of a sudden, from 10 students, it turns into a 20-student classroom. And from 20, it turns into a 25-student classroom, and they're going to lose the students. So take, please, this step 4 very seriously. I know I'm talking about it very briefly, but please take it seriously. Look at your class scheduling all the time. It's actually a technique, right? It's a business technique. If you look at it and know successful schools, how they run their schools successfully, one of the techniques they're really good at is that. Right, how to schedule classrooms and move around the classrooms and making sure that now they have more and more and more. Well, now that we're at the 600 level students in our school, we kind of have settled, right? But I remember when we had a 500, we wanted to move to 600, we had to juggle again and move things around. So we have 2 or 3 training rooms, and we had to juggle that around. And I never forget that when I had 100 students, and I was teaching in a 1,600 square foot place, and I'm thinking, man, how am I going to teach all these students in this 1,600 square foot? How am I going to fit them all? I had like 125 students there. And it seems that it was maxed out. But really, I didn't know the technique of how to fit more students within the same time of 4 o'clock to 9 p.m. And of course, I wasn't teaching Saturdays or Sundays. We had more of an open training times at those times. And so 2 days of the week was getting wasted, which it didn't need to. But the reason I didn't, partly was because I knew I had to teach those classes. So this was like a double-edged sword. I wanted more students, but then I needed to teach more classes, which I didn't have time to teach. So I didn't know what to do. So step 4, just remember, the more students, you require more classes, so plan well for it. Step 5. With more classes, you will need more teachers, and that's obvious, right? And if you are in a school that's teaching 60-70% of your students or more kids, you're going to have more of a hard time to get more teachers, and that's normal. But if you're teaching MMA and you have all these adult programs and you have this kickboxing program, it's going to be a lot easier for you because there are already a lot of adults in your school that you can help and develop to become teachers. So get parents involved. If you teach a lot of kids, these parents, they don't have much to do, and they love to volunteer. They love to get involved. They love to learn how to teach. How do you think yoga does it? Yoga opposite martial arts, there are all these teachers who take these teacher training and they become instructors and they go around in different schools and teach yoga. And you see all types of ages becoming teachers, from 20-year-old to 60-year-old, they're trying to become teachers. So and one of the reasons behind yoga's success has been in their industry the fact that they were able to develop more yoga teachers. I'm not sure if that really helped the yoga schools individually because, a teacher comes to your school, teach classes, then they go to another yoga gym and they can take all the students. So the students becomes really the teacher's students, not the school teacher's students. But at the same time, when you look at their growth, one of the reasons behind their growth was the ability to duplicate themselves, to duplicate the teachers. Now, if you want to grow your school from 100 students to 300 students, and you know for a fact that you have to start more classes and you need more teachers, where are you going to get them? The best people to get for teachers, it starts with your own school, the people who come to your school every day, the people who are loyal to yourself and to your system and to what you teach, meaning that the learning curve is going to be a lot less. You don't need to teach them a lot. You bring somebody to an MMA school from a Kung Fu school, you're going to have a hard time to get them to become teachers quickly. But if you get a parent who is watching the kids and the parents start taking lessons, they start doing some volunteering and help, they're going to be able to help a lot. Have at least one assistant instructor in every class. Again, this course, guys, is not about me helping you to develop that. There's a lot of assistant instructor programs out there. Again, one of them is United Professional. Talk to Greg, talk to Bill about their programs. They've helped other people, and I know for a fact it has worked. So try to develop an assistant instructor program. For my school, I've got one, and we call that assistant instructor 3, 2, 1, and then we get the students involved early when they're orange belts. They start coming volunteer. They don't do anything. They just stand in the classes, right? And then sometimes they help with the little kids, and sometimes they help with the white belts on small stuff. And then as they grow, they become green belts. They continuously volunteer, help. So by the time they're black belt, they are great instructors. It really takes a long time to become a good instructor because it's not all about just teaching or knowing the techniques yourself. It's about also teaching those techniques to others. I remember I hired a world champion kickboxing. I don't want to name him. He came to my school, and I asked him to teach a student a front kick. And he was fighting all over the world, in Holland, in Japan, and he could not honestly teach a simple front kick. While in the ring, he would knock other people out with front kicks. And I was shocked seeing that how a world champion cannot really teach another person one of the basic technique of martial arts. And one of the reasons was because he wasn't breaking it down into steps. He wasn't teaching it like a teacher would. He was teaching it like what he would do. And being a teacher takes time. It takes practice. And so the earlier you start this assistant instructor program in your school, the more chance you'll have to duplicate yourself in the classrooms to get to your 300 students mark. That it's your goal. So whatever you do, start thinking about it early. Don't let the days goes by and you don't have any program in place or you don't know what to do. All right? So I give you some ideas here. But most importantly for you to know is it's one of the most important things for you to do if you are at a lower student level at this time. Now, So have a proper assistant instructor training program. And I already talked about that. Now let's go back to this sixth step. Now, step 6 is understand numbers and statistics. In my experience dealing with martial arts businesses and the school owners, that probably is one of the things that they don't like at all. And I see actually more educated school owners that are coming now, opening up schools. They're into technology. They understand technology. They understand numbers. They're finance people. And that's one of the reasons that some of these multi-location schools are really growing, because now they're running their business like business-like, and not just as a training place-like. And step 6 is not necessarily loving the numbers and the statistics, because some people naturally love them, but at least understand them. And so let me go over some of the stuff with you and how we look at things, okay? Now, if you have 100 students, right, how many staff members would you need if you want to get to 300 students? In my opinion, the first 100 students, you definitely need 2 full-time staffers. Why not 1? Because 1 is going to get you to 100, and then you go back to 80, then you go back to 90, then you go back to 60, then you go back to 100, but you'll never get to 120. Why? Because nobody's there to help you. So you'll be running like crazy 12 hours a day. Eventually, your life goes by, 10 years pass by, you still have 100 students. You don't want that. So work it like a business. This is what a successful business does. You open a restaurant, you know you've got a great chef, you know you've got a great product, you know that you've got a great atmosphere. Now is your opening day. What do? Do you fill it up with 1 waiter? Or you fill it up with 2 or 3 or 5? In case you get busy, they can at least serve them. Same thing here. If you want to be 300 students school, you need to plan ahead, and you need to invest ahead. That way you have room to grow. It's like your space, same thing, right? So to me, in my opinion, the rules of thumb says if you have 100 students and you want to become 200 students, you need 2 full-time staffers. And if you pay them approximately $12 an hour, they work 170 hours a month, 180 hours a month, you'll be paying them about $4,200 a month. Now, for every 100 students, in addition, you would need another staff member. So, for example, if you're at 200 students, I would say you would need 3 full-time staff. And say the additional ones is the person who's been with you for a year or 2, now you're paying them more, about $15 an hour, so that makes them to get paid up $2,500. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, is that too much? Is that too little? You know, that all depends to your school, to your situation. You're only a 100-student school, so you're a small business. Of course, you can't afford to pay somebody $4,000 a month. And of course, you don't want to pay someone too cheap. And of course, you're lucky because you run a martial arts business and you have an opportunity to get lots of volunteers to help you in your school. A lot of assistant instructors that can help you in the school. But there's a whole bunch of work in the back of the office that happens that requires a full-time staff if you want to grow your school to 300 students. So you need to be prepared for it. So looking at it as a business only, if I'm getting involved as an investor, and get someone else to open a martial arts school for me, this will be my business plan. And space per student. Rules of thumb, 10 square foot per student minimum. So if you have 200 students, you need 2,000. If you have 200 students, you would need 2,000 square foot. If you want to have 300 students, you need minimum of 3,000 square foot place. So if you're right now in a 1,500 square foot, and you got 100 students, but you're thinking to have 200, and that's your goal, that's your plan, you better plan also for your space. Because soon you're going to run out of room. And you're going to have this school with packed of students that you can no longer serve. And then when the new student comes in, and they're going to look at you and say, wow, this is too packed. I'll probably learn nothing here. And then move on to another school. So plan for your space as much as you plan for duplicating yourself as the instructor. Now, 200 students need 2,000 square foot. Say you pay $15 a square foot. That's about $3,000 a month. 4, spend $10 per student on marketing. Right? And how many people are doing that? Can you raise your hand? That seems a lot of money, isn't it? I have 200 students. I will spend $2,000 on marketing. Why? I'll tell you why. Because if you have 200 students that you are happy to stay as 200 students, you don't need to spend $2,000. You can spend $1,000 a month. Right? Even though our old times, remember guys, we used to pay $500, $600, $800 just for landing for Yellow Pages, which no one would see. So, but if you want to be a growing school, remember, I told you, I said, if you're losing 10% of your students, you need to gain 15% of your students and new students. In order to do that, you need to get them in your door somehow. So wherever you spend that money has to bring you that many students. But the rules of thumb, it's okay. If you're a growing business and you want to get to 200 students, 300 students, 400 students, don't look at it as how much I'm spending. Look at it as how much I'm gaining and how much I'm investing into growing my business. And that's the rules of thumb. Now, if you spend also $10 for all other costs, probably office expense, supplies, expense, like anything else that goes on in your school, which I'm sure we all do, even bank fees and transactional fees, things that we don't count on, right? Things that we don't look at usually on a regular basis. Utilities and all the stuff that goes with running a business. If you spend another $10 per student for all other costs, that would be another $2,000. So what's your total expense for 200 students? Approximately $14,000. So you'll be spending at least $14,000 a month to have 200 students. Now, for some of you, that might be a lot. But for some of you who have 300, 400 students already, you say, oh, that's nothing, right? Because you're probably spending like $30,000 a month. Now, how much you have to charge? There's lots of different ways of charging for students. I hope you're not charging anything for less than $100 a month. If you do, you're really disvaluing your service. And your service is teaching martial arts, teaching self-defense, and educating people to become their best. And if that's not value $120 a month, I don't know what is. I honestly take my daughter to all these programs now, like different classes and gymnastics and sports ball and all these little programs that's going on for kids. And I see, first of all, none of them are cheap. They're really not cheap. And second of all, when I'm looking at all these programs as I'm taking my daughter for the first time, I'm realizing, man, martial arts is really a good business. When you compare it with all other things, with the art, with the music, with the sports, with the soccer, it's a good business that we're in. We're so lucky to be in the business of martial arts because we get the students a lot easier than they do because we can easily charge $120 a month because the value we bring to the students, none of these programs do like martial arts does. The way we run our curriculums, the way we educate our students, the confidence we give these kids and to these adults, it's amazing. $120 a month is nothing for a social service. If you don't think you deserve that, maybe you should look at yourself and the way you're teaching classes. So if you do charge $120 a month for 200 students, you will have about $24,000 a month in your school. And that's about $24,000 a month. So you will be making profit of $10,000 a month. So if I'm an investor and you are a great business owner, I would say, man, let's do it, right? When you look at the number of investment, because remember, we said the first 100 students to staff $4,200 a month, right? So that's one of those staff is probably yourself that you're not paying to anyone. But you should be getting paid as a staff member. And then when you look at the business, at the end of the day, it's $10,000 profit. That's huge. But would you make that profit if you had 80 students? You wouldn't. because all the costs is going to be exactly the same. You're going to still pay the 2 staff. You're going to still pay the rent. You're going to pay still most of your marketing costs and all other expenses going on. So you will only be profitable when you increase the number of your students. You will only become professional, living a happy life, running a great business, helping other people when you do have more students. And that more students, to make you a great school, in my opinion, is that 300 number mark. If you get to that, you're going to be running a good business. Now, the step 7, which is the last magic step, is be analytical every Friday. You know why I sit here every Friday? Because every Friday, everyone else will start thinking, I'm going to have fun, right? Every Friday, everyone's going to say, thank God I'm off. Everybody else is going to think and say, okay, so what I'm going to do for my weekend. But what I want you to do is stop thinking about those things, at least for a while, until you get to your 300 student mark goal, and think about your numbers. And look at them and see how you're really doing. One of the great ways to do this is through our dashboards, which I'm going to show you here. I built this software for a reason. It wasn't just to show you some reports. I didn't make this just for you to know. Well, you could have seen, get all this information already through the reports. But I made it so you can look at it on every Friday or every day to make sure that you're on the right track. How many students you have? Are you growing or not? How many did you have when you started the business? 66 students. Now you have 184 students. At least you're growing 179%. That's huge. If I was an investor, I wanted to invest in you to opening more schools. And the good things about this dashboard is that it's not just a dashboard. A dashboard usually is called when you show some charts and some reports. But this is not it. This is, we call it a smart dashboard. It's because it helps you to grow your business. All you have to do is put a number here. I want to grow 10%. And it will tell you exactly how many leads you got to get, whether you hit your target or not. From those leads, what's the number of appointments you're supposed to make in your calendar? How many intro 1 and introductory 2 you did in your classrooms when somebody's new come to your school and does a class, and how many new students you're supposed to get. It also shows you how many students you lost, which is really important. Remember, every time I talk about numbers and talked about being an entrepreneur, I talked about understanding your business when it comes to numbers. And this is where you should see that. You look at your marketing performance. You know, should you focus more on your leads? Or maybe you're not even booking them because you're not answering the phone. Or maybe you're not teaching great classes. Or maybe you don't know how to ask for money at the end of the day and enroll the students into your program. Now, there's 7 magic questions you ask a student when they come and take an introductory lesson in your school to make sure after taking 2 private lessons from you, they're going to say at the end of it, at least 80% of them, they're going to say, yes, I want to do this for another 12 months. And yes, I want to take these classes, and I want to be a black belt, and I want to be good at this. So those are all some of, I would say, techniques that helps you not only to help the students to set proper goals in their life, at least goals that they can stick with. We know for a fact that, kids in these days, they jump around too much to different sports, and at the end of it, they become nothing. So you help them to set those goals, and also you help your business. Because when you enroll in new students, they're supposed to be committed. They want to be with you, and they want to stay with you. So that's what these numbers is. So it's going to show you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Again, if you like some of the advice from me and you want me to look at your dashboard, just get a copy of it, send it to me. I'll be more than happy to help and tell you whether you're doing good or bad and which parts you're doing good or not. Another company that we're going to be most likely working with is going to be United Professional, where it's going to help you with this. They're going to look at the numbers with you on a regular basis so they can tell you whether you're doing good or not. In the second part, financial information, you all know what that means. And again, the last part that I talked about briefly, it was one of my magic steps. the second magic steps, if you remember, was ABC non-actives, which would tell you how your school's doing it. If you have 184 students, are they all happy? Are they all upset? Are they all non-actives? This is a demo database. I hope so your business is not running like this. Out of 184, if you had 160 non-active students, meaning they're still paying, but they're just not coming, I can't see you can grow that business at all. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. I appreciate your time being here today. And we might have some question and answers right now. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to respond and answer. One thing you can do for me, if you like to, is to go to our championsway.com. Tell us about how your experience was with this webinar and whether you liked it or not. And the second step is for you to ask some questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Master Farid, for that awesome presentation. I do have a few questions here, and I'm sure more will come in as we continue. But the first question here is, do you have any specific strategies for how you treat A students versus B and C students?
Absolutely, and great question. Every time I'm in a classroom, it's me personally, when I teach a class, I always want to help that C student. And the C student is usually either they're not coming as much, they're demotivated, or they're not progressing. So I look at my class report. I would never, ever walk in a classroom without a class report, first of all. I'll go in a classroom and make sure that I know what's going on in the classroom so I can see who's A, who's B, who's C. And the strategy would be, of course, it's not like don't pay attention to A students at all, but usually they're the ones who are in front line. And the C students and non-actives are the ones who need help. So I'll look at it, and and say, okay, why is this guy C student? Then I'll look at his progress, and I see, oh, he's been in this rank for 8 months versus, he should have been here only 4 months and be tested for the next rank. So I'll know what's wrong. Then I'll look at their techniques in the classrooms, during the classroom, the 45 minutes, because I know for a fact I can't help 15 or 20 people at once. In a 45 minutes, an hour class, of course you can't do that. But if you pick that 1 and 2 students that need your help the most, and if you can be random about it, and a class report can show you who to help, this is how you grow the classrooms, right? Everybody's having a great time. Everyone is practicing their techniques. I'm teaching the right curriculum in the classroom. I didn't just go out there and teach. No, I'm teaching them things they need to know specifically so they can grow to the next rank. And then when I visit and look at the C students and non-actives or B students, I know what their needs are and what are the things they're not good at. So what we've done in our schools, we have a stripe system. In the stripe systems, we have 4 stripes within each rank, and each stripe means something different. So when I look at the students, I look at their stripes and look at what they know, I look at the rating, I know for a fact what their needs are. So I can start helping them with those things. Even if I pat them in the shoulder, in the back, encourage them, have a 2-minute chat with them to why they're not showing up in the classroom or why they're not coming to school. Is everything okay in their life? That goes a long way.
Perfect. We have another question. What are the 7 questions to ask new leads?
Okay. That's the thing I didn't want to respond. That's a magic question. Some of the 7 magic questions is basically one of the ones is after they come to your school and do introductory lessons with you. This was a system developed by EFC, Mr. Coquinos, and he would always talk about, if you are signing up a student, make sure you sign up somebody who wants to be there. And the reason behind the question was basically that. So, for example, one of the questions is, do you have any injury that might stop you from training? Because you don't want to do 2 private lessons and find out at the end of the day that they've got knee issues and the doctors have told them never do martial arts, right? So you want to deal with these issues ahead of time during your private lessons. So that's one of the magic questions. The second magic question would be, so are you going to be in the area in the next 12 months? You don't want to find out at the end of the day that it's summertime, they're here on a vacation, they're just visiting a family, and they're not going to be here. So you want to ask those questions first. There's a whole bunch of questions that has been prepared for you to know, and also pre-frame the students in the introductory lesson. So by the time you get to the extension conference where you want to actually extend them to enroll them to your regular program, they're ready to go. And the other question is there anybody else that's going to make a decision for you to come here? For example, who's going to pay you for your bill? If you decide to continue here, who do you think would be the person responsible to pay your tuition? Is that going to be your mother? Is it your dad? Is that your wife? Is it your husband? The funny thing is I asked this question actually from a student, and he was a 45-year-old man. And I asked him the same question. He smiled at first, and he said, you know what? My wife. I said, your wife? He said, yeah, it's a wife. He said, because you know what? We all make decisions together, whether we do things or not, and our budget is done in our household through me and my wife. So she's the one who's going to actually pay for it, and we're going to make decisions together. I said, okay, that's great. And because of the magic question, I found that on the introductory one, I was able to tell the person, can you bring your wife with you the next class you show up? Because that's very important. Because you want to always talk to the decision maker at the end of the day. You don't want to teach a student everything you know. He or she goes home, whether they're a child or an adult, and find that they're talking to someone else to make a decision. You want to be there when they make those decisions. So it's better if you invite them to be there. The parents, the uncle, the grandma, the wife, the husband, so it doesn't matter. So some of these questions are actually designed to pre-frame the students, and some of them are designed for you to know where the state of mind of that student is. Another question is, after you've done all these things and you trained them and you gave them the confidence that they can do this, you would ask them, do you see it in yourself to become a black belt one day? It's such an important question, right? Do you see it in yourself to become a black belt? And a lot of people actually really think about that. Right? Do I see it in myself? Can I do this? If they say no, then you want to find out why they don't see it in themselves. Right? It's so important for you to be there and asking these questions. You don't want them to go through all these questions in their head without you knowing whether they're going to be able to continue to do this or not. And another question is, are you going to be able to commit yourself for at least 4 years? As soon as you say that, they're going to say, what? In their mind, they're going to say, 4 years? Wow. He wants me to commit for 4 years. That's a long time. But asking that question is going to set their mind that, hey, this is a serious school. They want me to be here to really get my black belt. And then when you introduce the idea of registering them only for 12 months, they're going to say, wow, this is good. I can do this. Though you asked them originally, can you commit yourself for 4 years? Then you're going to say, you know what? We like you to commit for 4 years, but I don't like to register you for 4 years because I'm not sure if you're going to stick with it or not, but I need you to at least commit for 12 months. Then it's a good thing, right? And most people would not say no to that. So all these questions are designed in your introductory lessons to pre-frame the students and also to help you to know where the student's state of mind is at. Next question.
So there's another question. How do you feel about free intros? And another question by the same person. Investors versus banks for money, where do you find your investors? So that's a two-part question.
So the first question was free intro or not. Are you really in the business of making $30, $40, $100? That's not what you're about, right? You're running a successful martial arts school. You're committed to run your school for years to come, and you want a committed students to come to your school on a regular basis. So don't definitely undersell yourself. The introductory, there's a purpose for it. The purpose is this. A lot of people are shy to try martial arts. A lot of people are intimidated to martial arts. A lot of people don't want to try and commit themselves to something that they might not be able to do. So there's lots of reasons why people wouldn't do something. The introductory has been designed only for you to get them in your door. So whether you give it for free, even give it a uniform on top of it, it's a great thing. All you have to look at is your numbers at the end of the day. If you gave 50 introductories and you spend $20, that's $1,000, how many students do you get from it? And is it worth it? That $1,000 is probably going to go in your marketing costs, the 10% that I talked about, $2,000 a month if you have 200 students. So that's your marketing cost. So don't be afraid and scared of giving intro lessons. If you believe in your program is what you teach, that means you can keep your students, then of course give the introductories for free or cheap or charge for a lot less or charge in a reasonable price. That way people can try you out. A lot of times if you use the word free, you might tell people that you have no value. So that's also not good. Depending on your area or your market, you want to test that, A/B test that. Try it without and try it with. Maybe charge only $30, including a uniform. That way they're committed, because when people see themselves in a uniform, they wear these gloves in their hands. You know, there's most likely they see themselves being able to do that. So if you're going to spend that money on themselves and help them to see that in themselves, that's great. It helps them, it helps you, and they're going to enroll into your program. The second question was, what was the second question, Shada, again? I forgot what the second question was.
It was investors versus banks for money. Where do you find your investors? Yeah.
Okay. That depends. I remember I asked for family members at the beginning when I started my school. I started with $30,000 because I had to get this place renovated, spend some money on marketing. I didn't want to start just, you know, with no business sense into it. I had a business plan, and I approached some family members. But, you know, either or it works. Either approach first. I would say always approach family and friends, because always people who believe in you are the ones who are willing to invest in you, right? And second, go to strangers. And strangers are banks, and banks are going to be wanting some assets from you and see whether you could be successful or not. So it's a longer process for you to really convince them whether they should give you money or not. So, but you know, I would say it starts with family and friends. And don't think because they're investors, you can set them up in a way that pay them by interest or paying them first plus something. They don't need necessarily to own your school 100% or some percentage of it. So it all depends how you organize it. But go to the cheapest route, you know, whether that is paying a 4 or 5% interest or getting a family member to make some money as well as you, and them being able to support you to move this forward.
Great. I have another question. How do you motivate students who are not very active or consistent with their attendance?
The first thing you do is educate them. How? Through talk, through automated emails, through Perfect Mind. Because you have these ABC non-active students, you should set up all your emails that you send out. Send stories, tell them about success of other students, tell them, encourage them on the, like while they're getting to their next belt, and tell them what it takes. But most importantly, when they are in the classroom, run your class reports, know it's ABC, and pat them on the shoulders and talk to them and let them know. But the best way to motivate the students is always, again, do an introductory for them. What did you do when you registered them originally? Remember, you sat down with them, you gave them a private lessons, you pay attention to them, and you also resolve all the issues they had in their head. So when a student wants to quit, it's the same thing. They want to quit because they either don't see it yet in themselves to be able to do things. If you're having a great time and you're learning how to ski, are you going to quit? Of course not. When are you going to quit skiing? When you keep falling down and getting cold and injuring yourself. This is when you start saying, I should quit. Right? So if a student is having fun, they're learning, they're progressing, why the hell would they want to quit? They're getting better. And every time they're getting better, people don't quit. It's like a business. Every time a business owner is not succeeding or not making money, or he's reducing his income is reducing every month, they start thinking, I should do another business. No. You should stick with your business and make it work. Because if you go somewhere else, you fail too. Same thing with students, right? So you need to be there for them. You need to talk to them, make sure you understand what their needs are. Maybe set up meetings, actually one-on-one meetings for like 15 minutes, right? And talk to them. Invite them to come to the school during the times you're slow. Say, hey, can I talk to you for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? And then find out what's going on. You practice this, I'm telling you, you're going to get good at it. I remember I had two sisters that I was teaching, and one of them never needed motivation to talk. One of them never needed push. The other sister, who was 2 years older, she wanted to quit on me almost every single belt. So she went through yellow belt, she wanted to quit. Orange belt, she wanted to quit. Green belt, she wanted to quit. Every bill, I had to sit down, talk to the mom, talk to the daughter, and find out what's going on. Finally, I brought her up to brown belt. And that is, I'm talking about like 4 years later. Because in my school, our black belts don't get to black belt. They have been there for 6, 7 years. So when she gets to brown belt, I said, you know what? I'm not going to motivate her again. And that was on purpose. Because I didn't want to give somebody a black belt if they don't have the self-discipline. The other sister, I needed to do anything. The day I stopped thinking to motivate her was the last day of her training. And honestly, this is the exact truth. She quit on me. She never did it again. And she regretted because now she's obviously, she's in her 30s and that she never finished her black belt. But that's people, right? You motivate them to a point. But at the same time, if you think you're going to run a successful school and people are going to become non-active and just let them, or they're not going to be motivated, just let them, of course you're not going to help them to succeed. Part of you educating students is educating them about not quitting. So you need to have lots of lessons that you know, that you've learned, that you can talk about. Well, a lot of articles that you need to read, a lot of educational things that you can do for them. Now, whether it's through email, on a regular basis, social media, whether you can automate that in your school, or most importantly, talking to them every day in the classroom when they show up. That's another reason why you look at a class report, because you want to know who those guys are. Next question.
How do you know when you should start spending money on online advertising like Google?
It's simple. Actually, the good things about today's marketing versus 10 years ago or 20 years ago is the fact that you can get results immediately, or you will know immediately. On Google AdWords, you spend $10, you know whether it had results or not. You spend $200, you know whether it had results or not. In the past, if you would do that with Yellow Pages, you had to write a contract, pay $700 a month for 12 months, and then you had to measure it, and then you would know. In today's world of digital, it's so much better. You guys who are new school owners, you're so lucky, honestly, because you can see immediately whether you're getting leads or not, right? So if that's your problem and you're not getting students in your school, start spending money, right? But before you want to try AdWords, have you tried other things? The most important thing is to be involved in your communities. Do you do any demos, or do you go to any schools and try to do classes for them for free? Do you do volunteer out in your community? Because events is another great way of bringing new students into your school. There's this Lululemon shop in our area that sell yoga equipment, and I see them. Actually, they're a retail shop, and I see every once in a while I see a couple of people like outside doing yoga moves in front of it. Can you imagine what kind of attention that store gets compared with like other retail store? Like, it's huge. People look at it and say, "Wow, what's the store?" Now, have you done that in your school? I used to, honestly, when I had like 100 students, every week I had students in front of the school, almost corner of the street, doing demos. Fun stuff, hitting targets, going out summertime for a run with the whole classrooms. You want to get out there as much as you can in your community. So if you've tried already those things, and you've done your email marketing, and you've done your SMO with Sense and Neck, which are essential to really run a business these days, and have tried our marketing services, and you want to do more, and go for it, right? And do the AdWords. But more important than AdWords is search engine optimization. If people are searching for you, are you coming on top, right? Are you using the SEO service that we offer? And those are also important. Just that you know, for everybody who's been in this room today, and I had the honor to talk to, we're offering a $200 gift certificate towards any service that we offer, whether that is marketing, SEO, and anything else that you'd like to do. But again, back to your questions. You want to try some AdWords? You have $100, $200 to waste. Why not? Go for it. At least you learn something.
Great. So the next question is, how can you best use your website to engage people who visit it?
Content, content, content. Fresh content. Google love content, right? They give you a lot of high rankings when you have content. I hope you're using the lounge. I built this tool for you guys to continuously put fresh content there and also help others to put content on your website. So ask your student, ask their parents. Go out there and blog for you on your own website in your lounge. All those things get picked up by Google search engine. And the more content you have, the more fresh content you have, the more chance you have for people to revisit you, to visit you, to share your information with others. And connect that, make sure to with your Facebook so you can bring people from Facebook to your website at the end of the day. I'm going to take one more question. And if there is more of them, Shada, so maybe we should do a follow-up webinars next month. And maybe we can do just a question and answer for people who've taken this webinar and they've gone through all the stuff that I went through and they have questions. So let's take one more question.
Okay, last question. It's a simple one. How do you keep your staff motivated and happy? And if anyone else has additional questions, I'll post the email. You can send your questions to, and we'll have them answered either in a follow-up webinar or directly. So how do you keep your staff motivated and happy?
How do you keep your staff motivated and happy? Talk to them. See what they want. That's the first thing, right? It's like, how do you keep your wife happy? How do you keep your husband happy? How do you keep your kids happy? Right? How do you keep the people around you happy? You talk to them. You communicate with them. So the first thing I would say, communicate with people. Don't treat them like just a staff. Treat them like friends. Treat them like the people you care about. Right? Deal with them on a regular basis. And I know it's not an easy thing. You focus on your business, but then you don't want to focus on the staff. But your staff are your business. They're part of your business. They're the ones who's going to help you to grow. At the same time, please pay attention to them. And don't always wait for them to come to you. So, I see that it happens a lot of times. Whether, the hardest part for me is running a 70-employee company is if my managers don't do that. If my managers don't go and make sure that they pay attention to the staff they're working with. Staff members have feelings. They're human beings. They want to be recognized. They want to grow. They want to help you to accomplish things you want to. They want to have goals. They want to work with you. So it's not all about money. About paying attention. So if you pay attention to what their needs are, whether that is money or recognitions or maybe they just want to learn more, give it to them. This is how you grow your business, by growing your staff. The more they become, the more you become. Never be afraid of them becoming more and they're going to leave. Don't think like that. If they're going to leave you because they became more, they better go now because that's the kind of individuals they are. It has nothing to do with you. It doesn't say anything about you if they leave. It says a lot about them not being able to communicate with you. So listen to them, make sure to reward them, and think about them as much as you think about yourself. At the end of the day, every business that you've ever seen to grow, it's been always about the teamwork, right? You can't do it by yourself, so you need people. And those people, if you respect them as your partners in business, and partners doesn't necessarily mean share partners, they could be your partners helping you to accomplish that job. And they're still your partners. If you treat them in that sense, you'll be treated back with respect as well. At the same time, don't disappear on them. This is your business. You know everything about it. Don't ever think that you're going to have staff members that are going to run it for you. It's impossible. At least not for a small business. For a small business, up to 300 students that you're trying to get to, you need to be there. You need to be involved. You need to know what's going on. You need to learn the stuff yourself. So try to lead your staff, but don't try to give everything for them to figure out on their own, because that's one of the biggest mistakes that small business owners make. And at the end of the day, they won't get results and they blame others. But the only person should have been blamed is the owner themselves or the CEO themselves. So take responsibility and pay attention and communicate. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of you for joining me today. Again, if you have any comments, please go to our Facebook page and comment there. And I appreciate your time again spent on your day and being the webinar. And hopefully we can do another follow-up webinars next month for question and answers. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Master Farid, for the webinar. Just to reiterate, if you do want to take advantage of the $200 gift card, please email us, marketing@championsway.com. And also, this webinar was entirely recorded, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel next week. If you can't find the link, again, marketing@championsway.com, I will send you the link. Thanks very much, everybody, and have a good day.